So there's new footage of crooks.
Posted on TikTok by the user IroncladUSA.
They were asked this question.
Thanks for the video. Are you sure that was F 426? That is the exact same time a sniper texted other snipers that Crooks was at the picnic table.
IroncladUSA replied, with a video of the metadata verifying that it was taken at July 13th at 4:26 p.m. and the Butler Trump rally.
Metadata can easily be adjusted and tampered with. But why bother with that when you are going to be this sloppy and post a work-in-progress doctoring?
We knew Crooks was pale, but to be glowing like this is next level.
No, 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 no.
All right, guys, happy Friday. It's going to be a happy Friday. Don't worry. We've got tons of funny content coming up. But first, I wanted to ask you guys if I'm the only person that doesn't feel like Trump has this election totally in the bag. Like, I'm wondering if conservatives might be deluding themselves a little bit with hope. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you what's been on my mind. Beyond Taylor Swift, by the way, the Democrats are now rolling out John Legend to remind people in Springfield, Ohio, that they should not care that they've just received a 20% population increase in the form of Haitian migrants who are, some say, eating the dogs and eating the cats. Plus, Shannon Sharpe, I don't know if you saw this. This is a oopsies. He's a former NFL player, Hall of Famer, podcaster, altogether well-liked guy. Well, he accidentally went live on Instagram while engaged in some sexual relations. Should he be punished for this audio porn by accident thing? All that coming up on Candace. All right, so if you're a good detective, according to Sherlock Holmes, you always pay attention to the dog that didn't bark. So the thing that wasn't said, the voice that you didn't hear. And I'm kind of interested now in the dog that didn't bark on debate night. Have you thought about that? Like something that was an obvious topic that should have come up that totally didn't come up. We should pay attention to it because it's a clue. Because if you remember, to jog your memory about the 2020 election debate, well, that dog had a very loud bark. So let's rewind. This is an old clip, an old montage of debates during the 2020 election cycle. Take a listen.
As we meet tonight, millions of Americans are receiving mail-in ballots or going to vote early. How confident should we be that this will be a fair election? And what are you prepared to do over the next 5+ weeks, because it'll not only be to Election Day, but also counting some ballots, mail-in ballots after Election Day? What are you prepared to do to reassure the American people that the next president will be the legitimate winner of this election? In 8 states, election workers are prohibited, currently by law, 8 states, from even beginning to process ballots, even take them out of the envelopes and flatten them until Election Day. That means that it's likely, because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is, that it could be days, it could be weeks,
could be months,
until we find out who the new president is. So first for you, sir, finally for the vice president, I hope neither of you will interrupt the other. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm during this extended period, not to engage in any civil unrest? And will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified?
President Trump has several times refused to commit himself to a peaceful transfer of power after the election. If your ticket wins and President Trump refuses to accept a peaceful transfer of power, what steps would you and Vice President Biden then take? What would happen next? You have 2 minutes.
It's super interesting to look at that in the retrospect. They just knew what was coming. I am one of the people, doesn't think, but knows, obviously, that the FBI was involved on January 6th. And they knew that that was coming because they knew that they were radically transforming the way that we voted and that they had thought of that as a mechanism to rig our elections. I will never change my mind on the fact that the 2020 election was rigged and they used COVID as an excuse. And they were preparing us, but you'll accept the results. And you're expecting that it could take a very long time for us to count the votes as we determine how many votes it is that we need to beat Trump and then magically find them because we've got all of these mail-in ballots that we can just mass produce. Yeah. Well, it's interesting to think about that, this insistence. They were talking about fair elections, peace. That was what they cared about. Peaceful transfers. Everything needed to be fair. And yet you would think that if peace was something that they were after, and they were worried about elections being fair, that they would still be concerned about that now in 2024. And here is the dog that did not bark during this week's debate. Do you guys remember this taking place just 62 days ago?
We see something that said, take a look at what happened.
It has been just 62 days since a lone shooter almost assassinated President Trump. You want to talk about fair elections? Well, the person that was just about to secure the Republican nominee was supposed to be dead. He was supposed to be murdered. And we were all supposed to be watching it because, like I said, they wanted all of us to be watching him live on stage. They wanted us to watch him being shot because it was supposed to be a mass psychosis event. It was supposed to make us all modify our behavior in what way? And it's important to realize how strange it is that this never came up during the debates. January 6th came up during the debates, but not the fact that somebody who more than half of the nation is behind and wanted to be their nominee was almost killed. They didn't ask Kamala Harris a single question about that. And that strikes me as remarkably strange. In fact, it strikes me as remarkably strange that we've moved on from this story so quickly. The media is not speaking about it. There's a reason for that. And I think it's incredibly compelling and powerful that Melania Trump, who rarely speaks, has used her voice to underscore how strange it is that we have moved on from this most important narrative. Take a listen to her.
The attempt to end my husband's life was a horrible, distressing experience. Now, the silence around it feels heavy. I can't help but wonder, why didn't law enforcement officials arrest the shooter before the speech? There is definitely more to this story, and we need to uncover the truth.
Yeah, I'm getting real sick of this idea that everything is just a remarkable security failure when these sorts of events take place. A remarkable security failure is what took place, which is something that could have led to a civil war, something that would have radically transformed this election. A remarkable security failure. Quite interestingly, Richard Blumenthal, he's a congressman up in Connecticut, has spoken out about how strange it is. And he says that the public is going to be quite appalled and shocked when more information about this assassination attempt is made public. Take a listen to what he had to say yesterday.
I think the American people are going to be shocked, astonished, and appalled by what we will report to them about the failures by the Secret Service in this assassination attempt on the former president. But I think they also ought to be appalled and astonished by the failure of the Department of Homeland Security to be more forthcoming, to be as candid and frank as it should be to them in terms of providing information. And we are going to absolutely insist on the truth and the whole truth in documents and testimony as members of the United States Senate, but also as citizens.
What did you learn new today when you said they're going to be appalled?
I'm not going to go into what we have learned in specifics. I'm giving you my reaction, and we will have a report very, very soon. But I think they also ought to be appalled and astonished by the failure of the Department of Homeland Security to be more forthcoming, to be as candid and frank as it should be to them in terms of providing information. And we are going to absolutely insist on the truth and the whole truth in documents and testimony as members of the United States Senate, but also as citizens.
What did you learn new today when you said there were going to be a poll?
I'm not going to go into what we have learned in specifics. I'm giving you my reaction, and we will have a report very, very soon that I think will absolutely shock the American people, or it should, about the lapses and lags in the protection that was afforded that day and the breakdown in communication, failure in responsibility.
Is that report coming today or tomorrow?
I'm sorry?
Is that report coming out tonight or tomorrow?
No.
I'm right. It's because it was an HSEEP training exercise.
Who does the Department of Homeland Security work for? When were they established, all of these states?
I know who DHS works with. That's FEMA.
The Department of Homeland Security, DHS, and the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, work together in many ways.
Departments. Who do the CIA work for? I mean, we've all kind of come to the conclusion that's obviously not for the American people, but we do know what they serve, what interests they serve, and their interests might be an answer to the question of why the state wanted to murder Donald Trump. That's because that's what happened, obviously. The state wanted Donald Trump to be assassinated, and the reasons that they wanted Donald Trump to be assassinated was because they did not want him to secure the Republican nomination. So let's run it this way. What would have happened if Donald Trump was assassinated? Who would have clinched the Republican nominee? Well, if what we know is that what they care about, the CIA, of course, is just international dominion, constantly going to war. The military-industrial complex is what we are referring to. They want nonstop war. And you go, okay, well, why can't Trump be president? Well, because Trump was averse to war. We know that. He ran and he spoke about bringing our troops home. Even this week on the debate stage, when he was asked about the Ukraine question, he danced around it a little bit, and you could sense that he does not believe that we have any business in Ukraine. That is problematic for the military-industrial complex because they're always itching to go to war because they have incentives that are not made public. We don't know what it is, like I said, that we're doing in the Middle East, why we are nonstop bombing the Middle East. We have no idea why we got involved in Ukraine, but we do know that these things were able to happen quickly under a Biden presidency, and the reason for that is because Biden is effectively dead. Okay. And that's who they want in office. They want somebody that they can severely blackmail, someone who's got skeletons in their closet, someone like a Emmanuel Macron type character who's married to a man and has been involved likely in some other interesting stuff. And they go, okay, well, you can be the person that is going to be the front because that's all it is. It's supposed to be performative. We're supposed to think the president is leading the country. Biden clearly has not been leading the country. That is abundantly obvious to the entire world at this moment. So who is? Like I said, they just want a person that's going to do what they say, not somebody like Trump. Trump's not good for that, okay? Trump's not going to take that sitting down. He's not going to, when someone says, well, we're just going to war and pull the people out of Afghanistan tomorrow. It doesn't matter how many American troops die. We want them out so that we can immediately transfer the money that was going into Afghanistan over to Ukraine. And that's what happened. In like a week. It's unbelievable when you take a look at the finances. It's not somebody that's going to ask questions, okay? They don't need somebody like Trump in office. They need someone that's going to go along with the show. And so they wanted to kill Trump. I'm not buying this lone shooter narrative. I'm completely done with believing in any of these lone shooter narratives after having read that book that I tell everybody to read, Chaos. You need to learn about MKUltra. You need to learn about all of these programs to brainwash people to commit crimes. That is a reality. They wanted to brainwash people to commit crimes. And again, the most heinous crimes, when you go back and you reflect on all of the murders and all of the serial killers that you think you know about, there is always going to be an angle that involves our government, which should terrify you, okay? But be happy that it provides clarity about what's actually happening in this country. So Donald Trump is not the establishment's candidate. That is abundantly clear. That is abundantly obvious. We should recognize that. And they are so desperate not to have him in office that they tried to kill him. Because if they had been successful and they had killed him, well, then what was right around the corner was the Republican convention. and it would have been an open convention. This means that the Republican delegates would have been able to decide, oh my gosh, well, it's not Trump, so we're just going to decide who we want to fill his shoes. This would have been an effective coup, just like they did with Biden. It would have been an effective coup. And who would they have picked? Well, the person who had dropped out before and who had rather conspicuously announced that she was suddenly speaking at the RNC was Nikki Haley. And Nikki Haley is about as pro-military industrial complex as it gets. She was the favored neocon pick. In fact, she took a very long time for her to even drop out. All she talks about is war, 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 bomb, bomb, bomb. Woman's never met a war that she did not like. She would have been a perfect candidate, and then it would have been a two-horse race, and the deep state would have been very happy. So why am I worried about the Trump campaign? Well, because if they are so desperate to not have him be in office that they will murder him, then have the establishment media bury the story, so much so that it's not even asked about on the debate stage, then it means that they already have a plan that is in action right now. And I am concerned that the Trump campaign is being squeezed right now by neocons. I do. I believe it. You think about all of the people that were pro-Hillary Clinton conservatives, pro-Hillary Clinton, so much so never Trump that they were willing to have Hillary Clinton be in office. Now, why would that be? Because there is no left and right when it comes to the military-industrial complex. This is how you get someone like Meghan McCain saying that she's voting for Kamala, because they're voting for the same exact interests. People that have investments, Lockheed Martin, people whose families have been enriched by never-ending wars, by selling out the American people, they are okay, whether it's a left candidate or a right candidate, so long as it is a war candidate. And a war candidate is who they want in office, and I think they're squeezing him. I think it's weird that all these people that were so never Trump are now the most vocal Trump supporters right now. And I think he's capitulating to them because his people around him are telling him, this is great, this is a sign that you're bringing people in. But in reality, I think that they got smart. They realized that going never Trump didn't stop him from getting into the White House in 2016. And so they instead tried to have their candidate beat Trump. And we tried DeSantis, we tried Nikki Haley. That didn't work. And so now they're just going to pretend that they support him. And in reality, they're supporting him by, I think, pulling him away from his prior MAGA more isolationist beliefs. And I genuinely believe this. I believe that this is an intentional infiltration. I believe that they are creating an illusion. I don't even know if these people are actually going to vote for him behind closed doors. I truly believe that their strategy here is to kill him with kindness, and it concerns me. Let me tell you, I obviously am hoping that I am wrong. I hope that I am wrong. This has not been a beautiful hand that we are watching being played by the neocons who really want Kamala Harris to win, because she is someone who has proven that she can be controlled and she will do whatever it is that they say. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. And I hope with everything in me that Trump beats Kamala in November. But I do not think that in a circumstance where they are not even mentioning that he was almost killed, something that would be talked about nonstop every day, a dark day in democracy. We're talking about January 6th, and this man was almost shot on stage. What does that signal to you? They want to move on from it because they have another plan that they want to implement, and they want the people to forget about the fact that the most violent event since JFK got shot in broad daylight almost took place in this country. Again, I hope I'm wrong, but I have to express my apprehensions. All right, guys, I want to remind you about preborn, because according to a recent report, Planned Parenthood continues to rake in billions despite dwindling clients. The biggest takeaway is that Planned Parenthood is generating vast profits, including millions in taxpayer funding. With preborn, we get to actively steal their clientele, meaning we get the opportunity to rescue the babies that they are trying to kill. Preborn operates in a very slim budget, rescuing over 200 babies' lives every single day with no government funding. Preborn's network of clinics are situated in the darkest corners of the nation, competing head-to-head with the abortion giants, and they need our help now more than ever. When you donate just $28 to Preborn, you will offer a free ultrasound to an expectant mother that is caught in a crisis. Because once she hears that heartbeat and sees that precious life, her baby's chance at life more than doubles. So sponsor a precious baby's life today. Your tax-deductible gift will go directly towards saving babies' lives. You just dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250 baby. Or you can go to preborn.com/Candace. That's preborn.com/Candace HSEEP.com/Candace. All right, guys, let me jump into this brief little update because it's very interesting. People were messaging me going, did you see the update about Natasha Ray, the update about Brigitte Macron? And I had already warned you guys that this was coming, that the media was trying to establish a red herring because the evidence is so overwhelming. It is just inescapably true that Brigitte Macron was a man, lived her life as a man named Jean-Michel Trogneau for about 30 plus years before transitioning into Brigitte and taking the name of what was her little sister. Obviously, this is so true that they just keep censoring this off the internet. And they removed my interview with the journalist who broke the story, a man named Xavier Poussard, who publishes a newspaper called Faits et Documents. And like I said, 3-year investigative work, and he has never been sued for defamation. Now, the media is intelligent enough to understand that this is all happening in France. We are in the English-speaking world, and so what they needed to do was to rely on people being unable to read the documents in a court case and then send out their Mockingbird journalists to pretend that the journalist was being sued for defamation. Xavier Poussard has never been sued for defamation. What actually happened, and this is why you're now seeing this headline as they're declaring it a win, 2 women guilty of slandering Brigitte Macron. These 2 women do not own the publication that published the 6-part docu-series about the transition. So what they did was they went after one of the investigators, which was a French woman, and her name is Natasha Ray. After they had published the 6-part series, Xavier Poussard published it. Natasha Ray, who had assisted in his investigation, went onto YouTube to talk about it. They did like a 4-hour podcast type interview where she spoke about the case. And so they had 4 hours of content. They needed her to just make one false statement in order for them to be able to sue her for defamation, even if the false statement had nothing to do with Brigitte being transgendered, and it didn't. That false statement, just so you guys understand, she went on the podcast and she was recounting how difficult it was for her to secure Jean-Michel Trogneau's birth certificate from the city hall, which is they're required to present that to you in France if you request it. They told her that they didn't have it after multiple requests, and then they Xavier Poussard published the 6-part series without it, and then they suddenly contacted and said, oh, we do have the birth certificate. And Natasha Ray thought that was suspicious. So as she was being interviewed, she says, as far as I'm concerned, this is fake. This is a fake document. But it wasn't a fake document. They had just been reluctant to present it, and then they actually did present the document. And so they went, aha, we got her. It's defamation. You lied about this document being fake. It's completely an inconsequential case, but it allowed them, again, to go to the Operation Mockingbird journalists to pretend that these women were being sued about the claim that Jean-Michel Trogneau is actually Brigitte Macron, and they weren't. So if you couldn't read the lawsuit, you were believing the BBC's headline that the 2 women guilty of slandering Brigitte Macron have been found guilty and are now forced to pay $8,000 fine in damages, to a $5,000 fine to Brigitte Macron and her brother. This is completely untrue. They're, again, trying to tiptoe around what's actually happened here because they know that most people do not speak French, are not going to read the case, and the public here is just completely lying about what actually was at the center of this case. It is not whether or not Brigitte Macron is actually Jean-Michel Trogneau, and if it was, they would be suing Xavier Poussard. Like I said, they took down my interview with Xavier Poussard. It was just at about 1 million views, and they got it taken down. I think it's quite timely that they did this right before this, but you guys just be aware of it. Everything that YouTube took down, you can find on Spotify, and we are uploading all the videos as well. That's a very powerful episode, and you can see how long he worked on this case, how obsessed he became with this case, and you will understand that he is not being pursued because of this work that he did whatsoever by the state, and that they're just being tricky with the public. All right, guys, I want to move on to this story because I just love rich people in Hollywood. I love it. I just love the way they lecture us. You know, I love Taylor Swift speaking about climate change, and she just flies her jet like 222 times a year. You know, it's really more than you'll ever spend in terms of the environment while you're driving your car. She does that in just kind of one flight. But whatever, like the whole point is like rules for thee and not for me. And what better example of this? So I didn't actually know this, but John Legend actually is from the town that the Haitian migrants have been sent to. A very small population, 60,000 people, okay? 60,000 people live here. And suddenly you have 20,000 Haitian immigrants that are being dropped off. So just imagine that you live where you live right now. I don't, maybe you live in a small town or maybe you live in a big city, but if you are from a small town, I just want you to imagine you live in Springfield, Ohio, you love where you live, there's 60,000 people that you recognize who have a way of life that's like you, something that's cohesive, and they're just like, no, we're dropping off 20,000 Haitian immigrants. It's just it's unimaginable that they would do this. You're talking like 25% of the population just dumped here, right? And so they're like, that might be a problem for the election cycle because people are somewhat concerned about migrants just being dropped off. But don't worry, we'll send out John Legend, who's from there, doesn't live there, but he's from there, to tell them not to worry too much about it because, like, you're doing something good for the migrants. And John Legend did just that. He released this video to speak to people from Springfield, Ohio. Take a listen.
So there are plenty of reasons why this might be a challenge for my hometown. But the bottom line is these people came to Springfield because there were jobs for them and they were willing to work and they wanted to live the American dream. They will assimilate and integrate in time, but it takes time. So I think all of us need to have the same kind of grace that we would want our ancestors to have when they moved here with our Haitian brothers and sisters who move here too. And nobody's eating cats. Nobody's eating dogs. We all just want to live and flourish and raise our families in a healthy and safe environment. How about we love one another? I grew up in the Christian tradition. We said to love our neighbor as we love ourselves and treat strangers as though they might be Christ. So how about we adopt that ethos when we talk about immigrants moving to our communities and don't spread hateful, xenophobic, racist lies about them.
There you have it, you guys. The problem is, like, you're xenophobic, hateful, you're lying, and he's reminding you to be Christ-like, which is incredible given the fact that he's married to Chrissy Teigen, who, like, you know, when she's not too busy, which is kind of like never because she doesn't really do anything, she's just kind of sliding into the DMs of people telling them to die and commit suicide. But he's reminding you guys to be Christ-like, not his potty-mouth wife, who routinely says awful things to people all over the internet. But, like, you need to be Christ-like because he's from Springfield, Ohio. And even though he doesn't live there, and he definitely lives in a gated community, and it's just this thing I've noticed that they're never dropping off migrants in any of these communities of the people that lecture us about accepting it. Remember when, like, Ron DeSantis sent a bus of migrants up? Maybe it wasn't Ron DeSantis. Maybe actually it was Texas governor. Sent a bus of migrants up to Martha's Vineyard, where the woke go to vacation. I mean, that would have been a perfect place. They got those migrants out faster than you could say migrants out. I'm talking, they were, get out of here. Oh, we preach, but we do not do, right? We do not do, we preach. But our expectation is, like, we are rich enough to not have to, like, experience the various crises that we support, all in the name of love. And so I just thought to myself, this is amazing. Like, where does John Legend live? Oh, by the way, he lives in Beverly Hills. And I loved finding out that he invited Architectural Design, like the magazine, into his home. So you can see how him and Chrissy, while people are having to deal with the migrants, him and Chrissy Teigen are living like this. Take a look.
Hello, AD.
Hello, AD.
I'm John Legend.
I'm Chrissy Teigen.
Welcome to our home.
Welcome.
Wow.
Our designer's name is Jake Arnold.
We love him.
I bet you do love him. I would love him too. It's a beautiful house. Kind of looks like it could fit 20,000 Haitian immigrants. They need jobs. I feel like that house takes at least like 20,000 immigrants to upkeep. Are there no jobs there? I just don't understand. Why not just move them into your neighborhood? I love it. I love Jack Arnold, whatever his name is. I love that for you. And then I looked up, and it per the New York Post, like Chrissy and John have a $57 million real estate portfolio. Why not just move some of these migrants into all of your homes? From that article, it says, in what has been a tumultuous year, this article is from 2021 for the couple, they recently transitioned to a bigger $17.5 million home from a smaller $17.7 million home. They're currently holding both and actually rented an $18 million Beverly Hills home this fall during the transition. So a transition for people that are in Springfield, Ohio is, okay, these people don't act like you, they maybe don't speak your language, they maybe eat different foods, as he says in the video. Portion I didn't show it, and it's a little different. A transition for the other side is like having to temporarily rent an $18 million home as you're between your two other $17.5 million homes. I feel like I want that transition for America, like for all Americans, but I feel you. I feel you. Like, I guess that's just not how the other side lives. It's what the other side teaches, but it isn't how the other side is living. So I just found it to be absolutely amazing that they do that. It's just incredible how they speak to us. Also, by the way, they say that they also have several other apartments in West Hollywood and all over the place. $57 million portfolio, not a single migrant taken into the Tegan John Legend residence. By the way, guys, this is amazing. I have to show you this. Speaking of the dogs and the cats, I don't know if you've caught this, but Donald Trump is trending on TikTok, and people that don't even like him are acknowledging that he dropped some bars about the dogs and the cats, and it's inspired a ton of TikTok dances, and they are fabulous and they are wonderful. And I can't lie, I too have been impacted by this trend. Every time I see it, I just smile with glee. Let's take a listen to TikTokers dancing to eating cats.
They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat.
It is catchy. It's a bop.
They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the cat.
I agree with him. I don't know how it is that we are the new adults. If you saw that on the TikTok, it says, how are we the new adults? I don't know, but it is catchy. I don't know why it's so catchy. You can guarantee that bop is going to be at clubs all around America. Guaranteed. It just works. And by the way, they really are eating the dogs and the cats. We're just wait a couple of weeks and they'll admit it. And then they'll tell us why we should just accept it. They'll drag out John Legend to explain why actually eating the dogs and eating the cats is just a part of the transition. It's just a part of the transition. Give it some time. And just like your ancestors from Ireland and France and wherever, they'll eventually start eating McDonald's. So there you have it. All right, guys, got to get to the story because it is a strange one. So Shannon Sharpe is very well liked. He's got a podcast. He actually brings people to talk trash about me on the podcast. So Shannon Sharpe, if you're watching this, I'm watching you and I'm aware. I don't like when people talk about me and not to me. Got something to say, your guest has something to say, invite me to the podcast. But anyways, parking this aside, he's very well liked. Obviously, he is on ESPN, former NFL footballer, Hall of Famer. And he had to apologize. People thought that he had been hacked because he live streamed inadvertently him making love to 3.2 million followers of his on Instagram. And this happened completely by accident. They didn't really know what to do. They didn't know if he was joking. Like I said, it turned out that he wasn't hacked. And so he just completely owned the accidental slip up. He was just like, grandpa didn't know his phone was somewhere and accidentally was live streaming a very private moment. Take a listen to him explaining what went down.
I'm embarrassed. Someone that is extremely private. The audio heard for the entire world to hear. People count on Shannon, Shay Shay Media, Club Shay Shay, Nightcap, ESPN, and I always try to be professional, even when I'm behind closed doors. I'm very disappointed in myself, not for the act, but for to have the audio to be heard. My kids called them, I called my sister, but guys, this was not staged. Came in, I threw my phone on the bed, engaged in an activity. All of a sudden, people are calling me, Shannon, you on IG Live. They can hear. I'm like, doing what? Like you were having sex. Man, my heart sank. It dropped. I said, I just got to tell them the truth. My phone wasn't hacked. It was me being active. I can't lie. I be on these sparks hard. Phone ring. Cat Williams. You ain't gay today?
We human. We all partake in horizontal and vertical activities. You're not very good at technology. You've done it to me. I was upset, but then I also remembered you're not very technically savvy, but the fact that it was a Michelle and not a Michael, that's my dog.
And there you have it. You know, some people were wondering whether or not he was going to be admonished for this by ESPN, if he was going to get in some sort of trouble, maybe a suspension for this act of audio porn, which went out unintentionally to 3.7 million followers. But the reality is that it was, in fact, an accident, and he owned it. I mean, it could have been like, I was hacked. I don't know what's going on. And people thought he was hacked, but he was like, listen, full mea culpa. This happened by accident and it shouldn't have happened and I'm embarrassed. And yeah, I really do think like the punishment is the crime here. Like, I mean, the crime is actually the punishment. Like, it's completely embarrassing to him and his family. And I just wanted to cover it because it's probably one of the stranger things that has happened this week. It's an increasingly strange society that we live in that could even plausibly happen, but he's not technically savvy. I would just say, you know, Shannon Sharp, maybe just keep your phone away. You know, just in general, I don't know. I just feel like that's just not something that you want to happen in the future. All right, before we go, I have to tell you about this amazing thing that's going on. Okay, so I was contacted on Connect. You know, that's the app that I'm on that people can like message me and like pay to text me and I can respond on audio. And this guy messages me, and this is what he says. His name is Will Duffy. He said, I heard you recently talking about the flat earth versus the globe debate. I'm a pastor from Colorado, and I've created something called The Final Experiment. It's a trip to Antarctica this December to settle the debate once and for all. It would be really cool if you and or George joined us in Antarctica. But if not, I would be more than happy to come on your show to talk about it. If you'd like more information, our website is thefinalexperiment.com. Thanks, Will. So why was he contacting me? Because the news somehow tried to make it seem like I was a flat earther simply because I said people should debate the things that they actually want to debate. And I said, notoriously, I have left the cult of science. I mean, I've been so wrong about things scientifically that I thought were true and I trusted the experts on, namely vaccines, obviously, birth control. And I've just been so shocked at the level of deception that the science community has been able to impart on mankind that I just no longer go out and say confidently things that I don't observe with my own two eyes or topics that I am not confident on. Of course, that was magically spun to say, Candace believes in the flat earth theory. No, I believe in the scientific method. You guys have at it and you debate it. It's not my interest. Well, so this is actually really fascinating because this is the return to the scientific method. But let me explain to you why this Antarctica holds the key. So Antarctica allegedly holds the key to this age-old question because both flat earthers and round earthers, this is what the gangs call each other, agree that Antarctica holds the answer. Like they, on both sides of the debate, they're like, yes, like Antarctica, once we go to Antarctica, we will know who is right in this debate. So I'll let you watch this montage of flat earthers and round earthers agreeing that Antarctica holds the answer. Take a look.
They all say that you and I can't privately and freely explore the one region that would prove the Earth's a sphere. So how convenient.
It's ludicrous. Antarctica is the one place that would prove the flat Earth.
Well, that brings me on nicely to why I think Antarctica destroys flat Earth.
And nobody is allowed to independently explore Antarctica. That's something that would prove the Earth is a globe.
So, as I said, they both agree on both sides that this holds the answer. And the reason because if the Earth is a sphere, then Antarctica is an island at the bottom of it. And if it is indeed an island at the bottom of a tilted globe, during the summer southern, the sun would never set in Antarctica. In other words, if the sun sets in Antarctica each day during the southern summer, then the Earth cannot be a globe. Under the globe model, the Earth is rotating while the sun is stationary. Under the flat Earth model, the Earth is stationary while the sun is rotating. So the final experiment was created by this guy, Will Duffy. He's a pastor at a small church. And I want to tell you guys about it because I think this is awesome. I love this. I am just so sick and bored of like the scientific authoritarian community. It's like if people are this passionate, which I've been shocked how many flat earthers there are since this clip of me went viral. And if people are this passionate about the topic, just figure it out. By the way, once upon a time, the entire world thought the earth was flat. And then because of the scientific method, the entire world changed their mind and said that it was a globe. And that's because you have to actually debate it. You don't just call each other stupid. So I told him, I was like, I think this is like such a fun thing that you guys are doing. And I promise I will report on it. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to make it down there, but they have 48 participants that are going down there, both the flat earthers and the round earthers. I can't believe I'm learning this terminology. They're both going down there, 48 participants together. And it's just amazing. They found somebody to sponsor it, all expenses paid trip, and I think they're gonna try to live stream it in some capacity. It's very expensive, by the way, to go down to Antarctica. It's like $31,000 to go and do an expedition to Antarctica. It's very difficult to get down there. So I will be watching the story, and I just wanted to toss it to them because I think it's fun. Like, it's actually fun to see people debate and want to get to the bottom of their debate about something that they are passionate about. All right, guys, I'm going to get into some of your comments here. Let's jump into them. First up, we have Lucky Mint, pardon me. Great show today, Candace. Thank you so much. Matilda writes, I went to Santiago, Chile last year and learned about the U.S.-backed coup on 9/11 in 1973. U.S.-backed coup on 9/11, strange. I'd love to see you discuss the connections between the two events. I'm not well read on that. I just know that we do coups all the time, namely also here in America when the deep state shot JFK. That was when there was an American coup, and I think that they've been controlling our elections since. This person, C. Macias, just sends me a heart. Thank you. Men Needed Now writes, to help prevent voter fraud, do you think ex-military patriots that care should go to the polls and monitor the situation, or at least at ballot drop boxes, which we know were rigged last time? I would imagine that they have passed some laws that if you did that, it would be considered like intimidation or something. I'm not positive. I'm obviously just freewheeling here, but I would imagine that they have thought through that and would not allow you to monitor anything without saying people are intimidated about their votes. Doesn't make sense, but they'll make it make sense. Sarah writes, prophecy will play out no matter who is president. Stay true to God. That's all that matters. 100%. That is called taking the white pill. And I am remarkably calm because of that. At the end of the day, it's whatever God wants, whatever God ordains, and whatever happens, there's a reason that God wants that to happen. Sarah also writes, I feel like they're trying to make the streets unsafe with these criminal immigrants on purpose to implement martial law. Yes, there is definitely some sort of a sinister agenda because they are increasingly making our society more violent, and to what end is a very fair question. Mama Bear Steph writes, God bless you and your beautiful family, Candace. John Legend is such a fraud, and his wife is the worst kind of evil. They will get theirs on Judgment Day. Yeah, it really makes you cringe when people who do not believe in Christ try to invoke Christ in order to make people who do believe in Christ go into some sort of an action for them, right? Like, well, I want you to accept the migrants, so I'm going to start invoking Christ. Like, really? Are you actually doing that? It kind of tosses it back to Rabbi Shmuley doing the exact same thing when he's quoting scripture to me as if he accepted Jesus Christ as the Messiah. It is just so absolutely demented when people do that, but of course we always see right through it. Swole Monkey writes, I live in Cincinnati, Ohio. Literally the day before the debate, it was all over local news that Haitian immigrants are eating people's pets along with the ducks and the geese in the parks. Yup, and then they disappeared it because they don't want people worried about all of the migrants that they are sticking into their communities while they live on the other side. Lastly, Lena writes, as an African European Muslim, I appreciate you spreading awareness and discussion of all of these topics. Thank you. I love doing it. I genuinely love what I do. I love talking to you guys every day. I love diving into different topics that most people won't dive into. And I love that, like I said last week or earlier this week, that I feel like I'm owned by the people. You know, like I don't have to worry about corporations or media headlines because we're talking to each other. We're speaking to one another about things that we care about as we try to get to the bottom of what is actually happening. because we all sense that it's spiritual warfare, and we sense it even more when they try to censor these alternative voices. They're fundamentally threatened. The establishment feels threatened, and I couldn't be here without you guys. You guys are going on clubcandace.com, buying merch. Thank you so much for doing that. Also, for those of you that have signed up for locals, I'm letting you guys know that we are going to start dropping the Shot in the Dark series, my series on vaccines. Mom and dads rejoice. I've always been most proud of that work because so many people come up to me and say, I didn't vax my child because of you, Candace. And it makes me happy that all I did was supply the information. I don't tell people one thing or the other. I just show people how much the establishment has lied and deluded you and made you feel fearful that your perfectly healthy baby needs human intervention or else it's going to die, which obviously doesn't make sense. It means that you don't believe in the natural order. It means that you are giving yourself to a humanist agenda to believe that a perfect baby is born wrong, like God and nature got it wrong and humans got it right. Something about that's increasingly demonic. So we're bringing that series back. Season 1, obviously, is the vaccines. Season 2, we shot, is about birth control, which is a dark, dark, dark history. Will never be in my body or the body of my daughter. It is just, I just almost wish I hadn't, but I'm glad I did because we get to share that with the world. So if you sign up to locals.com, that is where we will temporarily house it until next year while we are building something that's going to be much better and much more ease of use for you guys. And I think you're really going to love it. So stay tuned.